Hi guys, it's Mike here. 10 years in Taiwan. I wanted to talk to you guys about can Taiwan feel like home if the heart's still packed in a suitcase? There's kind of a lot to unpack here, I guess, and that's a pun, right? But it's interesting because a lot of people will stay in Taiwan for a long time, but there's kind of just something that's kind of tethering them to another place. I hate to focus on this, but a lot of Filipinos are kind of like this. They'll go on a video call with their friends and family from back home all the time, even when they just go shopping somewhere or something. They go hang out with their friends in their factory in the place that they're working at or here over in Taiwan. But they don't really go out of their comfort zone and, try to learn the language unless they have a boyfriend or girlfriend who is from Taiwan, then I guess they will. But yeah, so, unfinished emotional ties, if someone's heart is still tethered to another place, family, unresolved dreams, or sense of real life elsewhere, then Taiwan just might feel like a chapter in a destination. I know it's kind of funny, I guess a lot of foreigners, coming from teaching background, English teaching background, a lot of people, they want to say, oh yeah, I spent some time in Taiwan, or I was teaching English in Taiwan, just to kind of put it as a chapter in a book, not to say that it's the final destination. For me, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing, right? But some other people are not like that. I used to work at a private school, and there was this dude. I think he's from South Africa or something, and he was saying something about how he wanted to go over to Shenzhen after he's done with a private school. I guess that the private school wasn't enough for him. The private school, for me, it was great. I think I worked there maybe 2 or 3 days a week. If I could get a 5-day schedule over that private school, then I probably would have stayed there longer. It's kind of really far from where my house is now, but that's kind of beside the point. Anyway, so he was thinking okay, well, Shenzhen, bigger city, more salary, blah blah blah. But I kind of wanted to warn him that there's so many different variables when you're moving over to a place like Shenzhen, which is a first tier city over in mainland China. Just there's so much more people. There's so many more foreigners, right? Just even the way that people exchange money. Obviously, in mainland China, everybody uses their phone. In Taiwan, they don't, to pay for things, stuff like that. But I just think that he's got it made over here in Taiwan, and people they treat him really, really well. So, but I guess he just wants to kind of quote unquote upgrade. So okay, that's great. Yeah, if you want to go ahead and do that. I think it's probably better for you as a foreigner, if you are listening to this, to do it sooner than later, because you don't want to have any regrets. You don't want to be okay, well, I spent 10 years in Taiwan, then I broke up with my girlfriend, and now I'm just looking for the next thing, right? Now you wasted your time. And for some people, it's great here. I talked about my friend who has an English, and we call it Bushiban, but it's a cram school over in Taipei. And he's doing well. He's doing very, very well, as far as I know. We don't really talk that much anymore. Maybe probably that's my fault. But, there's some pizza guy who started his pizza business over in Taichung. I don't know him personally, but he's got a bunch of franchises. And I guess, there's a lot of people that have successful stories. And if it's for you to open a business, then, you should go ahead and do that. The illusion of permanence, renting instead of owning, teaching instead of building, socializing without integrating. These patterns can create a life that looks settled, but it's really temporary. So, guys, the thing with the English teacher kind of situation is that, everything is basically temporary. Your job is temporary. Your rent is temporary. Your girlfriend, your boyfriend is temporary. You have all these temporary things, and you're not really integrating yourself in the society. Integration to me is maybe you have kids, and then your kids go to elementary school and they learn the language in the place that you're in, right? You buy a house. You actually I said for years and years that I would never buy a house, and I kind of changed my word or whatever a little bit, but it's everything is just temporary. I'll give you guys an example. When I was over in Japan, I thought wow, this is it, and I only ended up spending 8 months over in Japan because it drove me nuts, and that's the subject for another video for another time. But the point is that I had some place that I rented, which is actually connected to another part of the school, which is kind of weird. I had a job, but I worked there for 5.5 days a week, which was terrible because on Saturdays I would get off work and I'd be okay, great, I want to go over to Tokyo, but I'm tired and I just want to go sleep at home and I don't want to spend any money. So that was horrible. But anyways, yeah, so you have this illusion that you have a life, especially in Taiwan. And it's not really a life that's permanent. Like you could just walk away from it and everything is gone. Say, you travel while you're like on the summer holidays or whatever, and then for some reason like you're stuck outside of Taiwan because of a visa issue or something. Now everything's just shut down, and you're just back to being your old self, and all your stuff is stuck in your apartment. Maybe your job is not going to be there like after 2 months because they're just going to go find somebody else. Maybe whoever your friends and your boyfriend or girlfriend, they just move on to somebody else. So it's completely temporary. So that's another kind of reason why. Is it really home? You have to ask yourself that question, right? Cultural distance without a deeper engagement with local language, customs, and community, the experience can stay kind of surface level. I've talked about this before, and if you want to just kind of be on a surface level with people in Taiwan, that's your prerogative. That's cool, and you can be happy that way, right? You could just be the foreign lady or the foreign guy who just is around here, and for all intents and purposes, for Taiwanese people, you're like the person who helps them with English and distributes English, right? And there's no other function. Yeah, maybe you could probably go over to one of your friends' houses and fix their toilet like whenever, whatever, or if they have like a place, or some type of party where they're inviting all of the neighbors and everybody's just gathering for refreshments and not really talking together, then yeah, they'll invite you too. But you're not really in it. You don't have an emotional bond with these people. And maybe you might say that communication is 80% tone, body language, facial expression. Okay, yeah, that's true, but it's not just that. For like having a relationship with people, it's like, are they going to invite you to their wedding? And even if they do invite you to their wedding, it's just because they're like, oh yeah, I have foreign friends, and I speak English. And the bride or the groom is going to go up to your random table, and your table is like filled with all the people who are just friends of the groom or friends of the bride, and you're sitting there with a bunch of people that you don't know, and they probably don't even speak English anyways, guys, right? So no, you got to really think about that. And I mean, if you don't, you just want to like stay in some place on a surface level with everybody, that's cool, man. You could be like 50 years old with your 25-year-old girlfriend, and still having a visa that can be canceled at any time. That to me is not really settling. And if you're going to be in any of these Asian places, there's not much they're going to do about social security and like a retirement plan. You're going to have to figure it out by yourself. But obviously, if you have $100,000 stashed in the bank and you're over in Cambodia, then okay, fine, then go retire. So floating between worlds, many foreigners exist in a space that's not really fully part of the local scene, not fully connected to their home country either, right? So yeah, you might go out and party and hang out with a bunch of friends, a bunch of coworkers that you've known for maybe a couple of years. You go drinking, hanging out, but when does that get boring? When you're like 40 years old and you're still hanging out with a bunch of 20 and 30-year-olds who are single and have no responsibilities outside of their own life, then it's kind of like, when are you gonna stop? And then they're gonna say like, oh yeah, the old guy, or I guess the old lady, but that doesn't really happen that much either, right? So I don't want to say that it's like there's a time for you to just kind of grow up, but I think there's probably a time for you to like realize that where you are and where you're at, and when you should settle. Over in the Philippines, when I was sitting over in a mall, I saw like some old dude like walking around the mall. He like met eyes with me, and he said, "Hey, nice sandwich you're eating, right?" And he knew that I was staring at him, right? And I guess it's kind of like a weird habit of mine, because I've been in Taiwan for too long just to like stare at like people. And here's the thing, guys, is like in the Philippines, I just kind of preface this a little bit. It's kind of normal to have big age gaps when you have a relationship with somebody, because I guess that is just kind of like responsibility or something like that. So you might have some 65-year-old foreign dude, and his like wife is like 35, and they have a kid together, and like, nobody cares. That's cool, right? But for me, it's a little bit off. It's a little bit weird. So maybe if you guys are listening to this, then please forgive me for staring at you. I don't really mean that much by it, but guys, the point is that when you're teaching English, and when you're kind of like living this kind of digital nomad lifestyle, you're just floating around in different places. And I guess that is okay. But and I used to think that that was like the lifestyle that I wanted to live. Like, you know, I'd be on a beach in Thailand for like 1 month, and then I'd switch over to some other place, maybe over in Europe or whatever it is, and just have like my, you know, laptop. But I don't know anymore. You know, I just I feel like you kind of get this exclusion feeling, for lack of a better way to say it, that, you know, everybody's moving on and everybody's very involved in their own lives, and then you're just kind of put off to the side, and like they'll say, oh yeah, I'll meet you on the weekend for a coffee, but you know, that's about it, and that's all about the time that anybody's gonna dedicate to you when you're in that area, and just because you're visiting or whatever it is, right? Or, you know, a lot of people will pass through Taiwan, and that I know, and they'll say, hey, can you come by? And I'm like an hour away from the airport, right? So it's like, oh yeah, okay, well, you guys can just hang out there in the airport, and I'll see you next time or whatever it is. So guys, if you want to settle down, then, you know, I think for me personally, it's, if you've been here for 5 years and you're still kind of 1 foot in and 1 foot out about Taiwan, I think you should just settle. But if you don't, then that's cool. You can go back home if you want to, right? But, you know, you won't really feel that sense of kind of homeliness until you make a decision, right? So make the decision if you want to. If you don't want to, and that's cool. You know, I don't know you and you don't know me, but if you have any ideas or comments or something that you want to say, if you agree or disagree about my opinion, then let me know in the comments. I'll see you guys later. Bye.